Today we got Grandia 1 versus Wild Arms 1. Any version. Okay, Wild Arms 1 is a game you can find on your PlayStation 4 and your PlayStation 5 digital with upscale graphics. But it was originally released on the PS1 and it's also available on PS3, the digital PS3 store, PS Vita as well. Grandia 1 is the same case, but you can find the remaster. You know, it got remastered with the second one, so yeah. Any version, okay? It's Wild Arms versus Grandia. I know it's not gonna get a lot of votes. These are two kind of underrated games. They aren't as popular as the ones we've covered in previous episodes, but I feel like every now and then we should do an episode with two not so famous games, okay? And you need to clarify this in the poll. We're ranking the first two games, not the entire series. Okay, we got the first comment here. Kevin Lewis says, I'll get crucified, but Grandia 1 has that coming-of-age story charm where the main character, aside from sharing a romance story with Fina, learns to grow with himself and take things to his own hand. Oh, so you like that growth, huh? That character development that Justin gets. Okay, no one's going to crucify you for that, man. I don't think so. Okay, Eduardo Barbosa says, Grandia has one of the deepest combat systems for a JRPG up to this day. As cool as Wild Arms is, it doesn't have the same impact. You know what? I agree. Yeah. If we're comparing the battle mechanics, Grandia 1 is more regional, more unique, and more compelling. Wild Arms is a bit generic. You do have the arms, but other than that, it's your everyday turn-based combat. Okuni says, Grandia has a better combat system. The characters are more alive, more of an adventure feel to it. Okay. NMO95 says, Grandia really sold its epic journey vibes, with a story that has way more depth than what might seem at first. And the combat is addicting, although a bit grindy, but intended. Okay, another argument in favor of Grandia 1. So Praetor says, all I remember from Wild Arms was the puzzles. Grandia has a deeper combat system, more fun leveling mechanics, better characters, better story, etc. Okay, so Smiling Dog says, despite I know that Grandia 1 will win by a landslide, as expected, but to be honest and to my heart, Wild Arms is one of my favorite JRPGs to me, especially in OST. An argument in favor of the music. And he continues saying, to me, despite of its generic battle system, to be honest, Wild Arms have some great characters, awesome soundtrack, and quite a unique setting that took place in the Wild West setting. Yes, that's correct. There's barely any JRPGs out there with a Wild West setting. That's because that thing doesn't exist in Japan. Tetsu18 says, I like Wild Arms better. It was one of my first JRPGs, so maybe that's why. But I like the story and characters better, plus the OST is pretty awesome. Yeah, and don't forget, it's pretty unique. Michiko Naruke, the composer, she was a big fan of Ennio Morricone, the composer of the classic Wild West composer, right? From The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Mystery Kid says, Grandia has better battle system, better world, that adventurous feel you get while exploring the world, better art style. Okay, the poll is over and Grandia won with 63%, Wild Arms 1 lost with 37%. I expected Grandia 1 to win, merely because it's more popular and because it's available on more modern systems and because it got a proper remaster, whereas Wild Arms 1 only got this port with upscale graphics on PS4 and 5. That's all Sony did with it. I think the competition would have been a lot more fierce had Wild Arms 1 received the same treatment as Grandia 1. So Grandia 1 was always going to win because it's just the more popular game and it seems to be very beloved by the internet nowadays, more so than Wild Arms 1. So okay. I know this is a trend with me, but I don't do it on purpose, you know, but I tend to choose the underdog. Not because it's the underdog, but because I think Wild Arms, while it's not the better game, I think Grandia is the better game, more complete, more fulfilling, more characters, more party members, more story, more adventurous feels than Wild Arms. But Wild Arms is such a unique game. There's no other games like it except the rest of the series. And it's a bit more mature I understand the appeal of Grandia 1 and, you know, the growth the character Justin gets from being an immature, funny, bratty little kid growing up just a bit, you know, I understand that. And I love the heck out of Fina and Sue. I love Sue. Who doesn't love Sue? I love her. But Wild Arms is a bit more serious, a bit more mature. Sure, it focuses more on Cecilia and on we're pretty much the bad guys, and everything that happens in Wild Arms focuses more on Cecilia than the other two characters. But still, you know, I think the story is a little bit more interesting and more compelling for me, but only because it's a bit more mature. You do have the power of friendship party fighting powerful enemies, and maybe not exactly fighting God, but still. It's just a more appealing story. But unfortunately, I can't make a better argument than that. Because neither of these games, in my opinion, have a killer story. Unlike some of the games we've covered in previous episodes, neither of these games has a top tier level of story. No, it doesn't. It's a good story in both games, but that's about it. So that's all I'm going to say about the story and characters. When it comes to graphics, I think they're on equal terms. I believe Grandia 1 has more colorful graphics and better visuals when it comes to colors. But I think Wild Arms beats it because you don't have an annoying camera and you don't have those annoying camera angles. And it just doesn't... I mean, the original versions, Grandia 1 had some technical issues. Wild Arms didn't. So that's another point in favor of Wild Arms. The sprites are much more beautiful on Grandia 1, I'll give you that. The pixel art is much better in Grandia. Because in Wild Arms, they are actually they're 3D models. They are not 3D models in the overworld, but in battle they are 3D models. And they look like, I don't know, man. I don't know. So that's one point in favor of Grandia. So battle mechanics, Grandia wins by a landslide because of its originality, because of its uniqueness, because it kind of influenced the market. There's been a lot of RPGs influenced by the Grandia series. One really popular one, it's called Child of Light, which was pretty much the battle mechanics were influenced by the Grandia games. So there you have it. And Wild Arms, the combat system is a bit generic. Sure, you have the arms and you gotta reload your gun and whatnot, but everything else is just your standard attack, item, defend, and that's it, right? So there's nothing special about the battle system, but I still like it. I still like it a lot. And when it comes to music, I think both games are on the same level. I love both soundtracks. I'm a big fan of certain tunes and themes that I've used in a lot of videos from these two games. But I gotta give preference to Wild Arms because, again, its uniqueness. Because it tried to be different, because it took some Wild West elements, some Ennio Morricone elements, and it turned out to be very original. Despite the game having some science fiction elements and some sci-fi tunes, the battle system sounds nothing like a Wild West theme, but the music is a little bit more unique and special, right? And that's it. To be honest, I don't think Wild Arms is the better game. I literally believe Grandia 1 is the better game here, but I gotta go with Wild Arms because I tend to give preference to originality and to uniqueness a little bit more. Despite Grandia having a unique battle system, that's the only unique thing about it. Everything else is more, I mean, Wild Arms has more unique features to it, but that's about it. This is a solid, I prefer Wild Arms, that's my pick, but it's so hard to decide which one is, I mean, damn, I'm glad it's over. Yeah, so Wild Arms is my pick, guys, but Grandia 1 is like a really extremely close second.